Hey all, in this video, we are actually building something real, step by step. We'll walk you through a real-world case study on building microservice architecture using Azure Kubernetes Service. In this video, you'll learn how to break down a large system into manageable microservices, improve scalability, and ensure seamless orchestration between services like MongoDB, Cosmos DB, and PostgreSQL. We'll also explore how to solve customer problems like reducing regression, improving deployment efficiency, and managing high availability services. Now here's something important. This particular video is actually taken from our job-oriented program. And let me tell you, it's working. Many professionals like Chris, Tawfiq, and Sergey have already gone through our training, earned their certifications, and landed high-paying jobs. They started exactly where you might be right now. So if you want to succeed like them and really transform your career, here's what I want you to do. Book a free career guidance call with us. Seriously, it's completely free, there's zero pressure, and we will help you figure out the exact path to get where you want to be. So whether you're just starting out or looking to make that next big jump, we'll map it out together. The link is right there in the description and pinned comments. So let's jump into the video.
This particular case study, we're gonna start with some sort of understanding, or probably you can say we are planning to identify or we are planning to visualize that how the microservice architecture probably looks like in case you are planning with any of your particular solution, or maybe you can say the criteria, then what's the objective look like if you are looking into any of your particular approach or solution altogether from the overall, like you can say, understanding or learning point of view, then how this option probably going to work out, what sort of probably the solution approach maybe we need to take care of it, and then it will help you out visualizing or planning that uh, what will be the end to end, what will be the end goal, probably we need to think about it. And if you need to play around with anything as such, then how this is something going to be work out, right? So that way at least you will be able to plan, understand, visualize, think about it, and you will be able to provide your input as well. So in this case study, I will give you kind of little bit work. Okay, I will ask you guys to think about it and come back with your own solution. So format will remain same. So let's start with first of all understanding scenario. So here this is like customer situation. So I'll tell you like the way we are currently attending this online session, right? We are using this particular service called Zoom meeting. Right? So many of you have seen Zoom meeting, Microsoft Teams, or maybe you can say Google Meet, and there are so many online services are available which helps you to conduct the online sessions, right? So there was one particular tool because I do remember I used to conduct many session on behalf of Microsoft earlier, like in year 2014, 15, 16. That time, like Microsoft was publishing their cloud technology a lot. And I was one of the speaker, or maybe you can say trainer for those Microsoft professional certifications and all. So I used to conduct those particular sessions. And during that time frame, Microsoft were using one of the online tool, and that tool was hosted on Azure, which was developed via Skype. So I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with Skype. Earlier, to make a international call or video call and all that stuff, we used to work with Skype. Later, Microsoft acquired Skype and they converted with link service and all that stuff. So this tool was developed with that, and it was hosted somewhere in Microsoft Azure. So similar to that, this case study is focused on those areas. So this case study is basically talking about the you can say requirement here. Fabricam Medical Conferences provide conferences website service tailored to the community. So this is basically kind of this is something maybe you can say we can have a kind of solution, or maybe you can consider that in case of somebody wants to plan and manage and develop something, then in that particular case, the customer basically they can go ahead and plan and maintain and work with their particular conference sites online. So here we can say Fabricam Medical Conferences provides conference website service tailored to the medical community. After starting with few small conferences, they now have evolved into well-known brand and handle over 100 conferences per year and growing. Now, further requirement, customer situation. Each conference site has limited budget, but the conference owners have significant customization and change demands. This is like standard problem statement. These changes can impact various aspects of the system, from UI to backend, including conference registration and payment terms. They have like 12 developers who all are handling development, testing, deployment, operational management of all customer sites and all, right? So I do remember, I think earlier asked that they are into mobile application development and all that stuff, and they have some development focused team in place. So how these particular services or components work out, right? So probably you can think or imagine this way, like you have set of developers who focus on solutions and what all the tool chain and services probably they can use it over here. So in line to that, due to customer demands, they have issues with the efficiency and reliability of the development and DevOps workflows. Here, the technology used is the mean stack. So nowadays we call it out mean stack, MERN stack and all. So mean stack is like with Mongo, Express, Angular and Node.js. Website and APIs are built as microservice hosted on Linux servers. The on-prem data backend is MongoDB, whereas which is also running on separate cluster of Linux servers. There is a relational data stored in PostgreSQL running on Linux server, right? So this is also again the requirement. Now, conference owners, which are also called out as in customers, are considered as in tenant, and each tenant is treated as a unique deployment, including each tenant has a database in MongoDB cluster with its own collection and database in PostgreSQL. A copy of the most recent functional conference code base is taken and configured to point at the tenant database. Modifications are made to support the customer's needs. The tenant's code is deployed to a specific group of load balanced Linux servers dedicated to one or more tenant. Once the conference site is live, the inevitable request for customization to the deployment begins. Customer situation, they are looking to achieve the following: reduce potential regression introduced to functional tenant code when changes are made. Ideally, changes to individual area should not require full regression test of the site functionality. Reduce the time to onboard new tenants. Reduce overhead managing changes and related deployments. Improve ability to roll back and recover post change, and increase visibility into system operations and health. Customer needs: simplify new tenant deployment, improve reliability of tenant updates, choose a suitable Docker container strategy on Azure, migrate MongoDB data to Cosmos DB without application changes, migrate relational data from PostgreSQL on-premise database to Microsoft Azure, continue to use Git repository for source control, look at GitHub Actions as the CI/CD tool of choice. Customer needs: use tool for deployment, CI/CD integration, container scheduling, orchestration, monitoring, and alerts. They wish to complete an implementation of the proposed solution for single tenant to train the team and perfect the process. And hence attend the session feedback with AI to prevent inappropriate content from being posted, and real-time language translation to better accommodate growing worldwide conferences attendance, right? So these are the things are expected. Customer objection. There are many ways to deploy Docker container on Azure. How to how do those options compare, and what are motivations for each? Is there an option in Azure that provides container orchestration platform features that are easy to manage and migrate to, that can also handle our scale and management workflow requirements, right? So these are some of the asks. Here is the common scenario. Kubernetes architecture is given. So this Kubernetes architecture at least give you some idea that probably what could be the solution. Maybe you can come back and try to provide a proposal or solution across the services what you have. So that's all the highlight of the case study. I will share this deck with you. I will give you some time. Of course, I mean, it's really challenging for me to give you like almost 60 minutes. But yeah, at least I'll give you some time where I'm expecting you guys to go through with this microservice architecture, look into this problem statement, and come back with your potential thought process or services. That way, at least we can visualize and understand those scenario in place. Let's take a look at it. This is like a particular problem statement, what we talked about, right? Customer situations and all of that. So here, we can have a solution, and this particular solution is more about focusing on Kubernetes side of component, where we need to understand or visualize that in case of planning and going ahead with any criteria, or maybe you can say in case of thinking about like how that is something probably going to be work out, or maybe you can say in case of planning and providing a kind of end-to-end solution towards the customer point of view, how this containerization probably going to work out, and maybe you will be able to go ahead with those options or scenario in place. Yeah. So in this particular situation, or in this particular scenario, what we are going to discuss about that, we need to understand that, okay, if customer is looking for orchestration, right? Or even like in the beginning, there was a question that, hey, why can't we use serverless? Why can't we go ahead with function app? Because that is also providing you a kind of microservice architecture or options in place. So that will be also one of the solution maybe we can think of, right? So here probably we need to visualize the options, and we can come up with the approach that which option basically best suitable looking at the current situation provided by the customer, and then if that is something maybe we can fulfill, then it will help you out to go ahead with those offerings the way it is expected, right? So here what we need to plan, or maybe you can say we need to think about, is more about like Docker containers and all that. So containerization point of view, there are many technology available in enterprise world. So those particular container technology basically help you out understanding that in case if you wanted to at all go through with that particular containerization approach and all that. So Docker container is one of them. OpenShift is also one of them. We can have Kubernetes. We can have kind of approach where you can consider that if you wanted to play around with anything as such, then probably you may simply go ahead with some sort of options where probably containerization maybe we can think about. So expectation from the current customer point of view is that they are looking for complete orchestration layer, which helps them to manage their container activity. Now, in that particular scenario, the overall requirement, or maybe you can say overall activity, is more about planning and performing, or maybe you can say planning and performing some sort of solution where the expectation is towards having your resources to be like up and running in a way where you will be able to plug and play and target your particular solution approach in a way so that it will help you out to manage your particular orchestration and scalability and many other things in place. Now, to do so, here we can think about multiple technology stack, right? As I said, like there are many different technology stacks are there, and using those particular technology stacks, probably you will be able to figure it out that which orchestration layer works better in a way, and then it will help you out, or maybe you can say it will give you a kind of activity where you will be able to plug and play and manage those options into the system or the activity way it is expected. So it is the kind of it is a kind of like option, or maybe it is a kind of like activity where we need to figure it out the overall approach, and in that particular scenario we just need to simplify that how those activity, how those particular solution approach uh, going to be work out, and then maybe we will be able to go ahead with those options the way it is expected, right? So here what we need to consider that in case of planning or maybe you can say like solution approach, maybe we will be able to figure it out. So AKS, Azure Kubernetes Service, is one of the ideal situation. Now there are two different type of thought process. If I go ahead with serverless, then in that particular serverless approach, we do have a option of this thing. What do you call? The serverless basically provide you a kind of option where function app. Now let's imagine that if we have long-term activity, or maybe you can say we have a kind of long-term jobs to be up and running, long-term tasks to be up and running, then in that case, function app may not be sufficient, or maybe it will not provide you kind of fulfillment of kind of activity. So ultimately, like the goal over here is that we need to figure it out, or we need to visualize that how those options probably help you out, or maybe you can say it will be providing you a kind of approach to fix those problem statement, right? So here, if we wanted to plan and manage, AKS basically give you the better approach. You can have GitHub or GitHub Actions or even Azure DevOps also in place. And with the combination of that, it will provide you a kind of scenario, or it will provide you a kind of approach where you will be able to optimize the environment or optimize the overall performance and activity in place. And then accordingly, you will be able to go ahead with those scenario in place. So that's here is like a high level reference architecture, and this particular architecture talks about what all the possibilities are there, what all the solutions are, or maybe you can say what all the options are there. And then accordingly, we can simplify, or maybe we can plan that how that particular scenario may be going to be work out. And then accordingly, probably you will be able to plan and manage and take care of that specific activity the way it is expected. So I have like given like 6 bullet points: AKS cluster with load balancer, GitHub along with Helm chart, AKS cluster with microservice, migrating and hosting SQL and NoSQL DB on targeted platform as a service services, right? Cluster security will be managed with Azure AD, and then Azure AI services for cognitive related options and operations, what we are like looking at it. So in all of that particular options, or maybe you can say in all of that particular activity, we need to figure it out that how those options, or maybe you can say scenario, probably going to be work out, and then maybe we will be able to plan and manage and work with those activity altogether. So First thing in place, it starts with load balancer, where load balancer will be available in terms of providing your or it will give you a kind of option where you can have network traffic routing management in place, where you will be able to plug and play and maintain the process in a way so that whatever network traffic you want to address in place, that is something you will be able to plan and manage, and it will give you a kind of better traffic management options across the services what we are like looking at it. So here maybe we can think of that in case of planning and in case of like planning and managing that particular criteria, we do have better operations to be taken care into the system. So orchestration layer point of view, you have a kind of services, you have a kind of like approach in place, and then according to that, you will be able to play around with those solutions, or maybe you can say play around with those activity in place, and then accordingly you may simplify that particular criteria the way it is expected, right? So that is something we need to figure it out, or we need to identify that how that solution approach maybe we wanted to plug and play. So Azure Load Balancer will help you out in terms of traffic routing. Now here, since it's a multi-tenancy expectation, right? We are supposed to plan, we are supposed to create a solution in a way so that customer will have better management in place. They can have different components will be managed accordingly, and then in that particular case, they will be able to address those solutions in that particular scenario, right? So here you can consider that, okay, yeah, I mean, front end, back end, we can create microservices which are like long running components. Front end will be your administrative side, where customer can maintain their particular solution, like whatever the creating conference event, managing user profiles, and many other things. They will be able to do it via admin site and conference website. Conference website will be the front end for the user to be accessed or end user to get access to it, and admin side is for the individual organization or maybe the medical conference service provider, or maybe the customer or doctors or whomsoever wanted to conduct, they can use this admin side. Microservice point of view, they can have registrations, content sharing, email configurations, and all that stuff. They will be divided into those microservices. And these deployment, we can do it on a Linux environment, right? Linux, Windows, both kind of container environments now supported. So we can pick up, and they can be secure enough behind the scene of our networking, so that Kubernetes basically allow you, along with the orchestration layer, you will be able to manage them behind the scene, and then you will be able to address those particular services altogether. So that way virtual network works. Now, the left hand side, if I'm considering CI/CD and all, right, to deploy this particular microservice components and all of that, here we can go ahead with CI/CD with GitHub Actions. We can have Helm chart. Now, of course, I mean, the important factor is that being a developer, you might have to learn about the option, or maybe you can say solution towards this thing. What do you call it? The Kubernetes cluster, how the Kubernetes cluster works, what kind of orchestration layer will be provided, what kind of configuration management and other things maybe you can target. So based on that, you will get familiar with those options, and you will be able to implement them into your day-to-day solution or day-to-day activity, what we are like looking at it, right? So the major criteria is that to provide you a kind of understanding about developing microservices and hosting it into cloud. So you can have some better understanding or clarity, and that way at least probably you can figure it out that in case of planning and working with any of your particular solution approach or any of this particular activity, then I think you may simply go ahead with this scenario in place, and then accordingly you will be able to target this particular activity the way it is expected. So ultimate goal over here is that to provide you a kind of maybe you can say approach, or provide you a kind of activity where you will be able to build and host your microservices into targeted environment. And here we can also think about container registry, because if we need to constantly develop and publish the latest and greatest version of those particular container images, then definitely this is one of the criteria probably we can think through. And then according to that, it will basically help you out in terms of planning and managing or working with this particular activity back into the system, what we are like looking at it. So you may have this GitHub Actions, and these particular sort of components in place, which basically help you out to address those issues, right? Now, the fourth, fifth, and sixth, Azure Active Directory basically help you out in terms of planning your user authentication, user profile management, and all that, right? So people who all are connecting, so tenant creation activity which we required, right? So we can set up Azure AD, we can set up or enter ID, and then we can have the user profile created under that respective enter ID. So the dedicated tenant will be created and every user will be mapped with that application authentications and other stuff what we can consider. So that way at least we can address that problem statement. And along with that, the fourth and sixth component. The fourth one is like the database migration. So here we can think of two different type of database services. As customer had a requirement of PostgreSQL and as well as MongoDB, right? So MongoDB definitely you can have lift and shift as is migrated to Cosmos DB, and you can leverage MongoDB API on top of it, and then you will be able to work with that database engine as a kind of service or as an offering in place, right? Along with that, PostgreSQL is also supported. It is available as in platform as a service also. So if in case any requirement or maybe you can say any particular certain type of expectation you may have, then in that case you will be able to go ahead with that MongoDB cluster and PostgreSQL to be migrated to the platform as a service, and then accordingly it will be available, or maybe you can say it will provide you kind of options where you will be able to go through with that solution in place, right? So that way, at least probably you will be able to plan and maintain or work with those criteria, what we are like looking at it. So ultimately, it's like a kind of approach, or maybe you can say it's like a kind of activity, what we need to figure it out that how the database engine going to work as an PaaS component, because since it's a complete orchestration layer managed with platform as a service offered by Microsoft in the form of AKS, Azure Kubernetes Service, so that it will provide you kind of well balanced or managed orchestration layer. Now, last but not least, in terms of content filtration point of view, now customer is also expecting that when somebody message, when somebody upload photo or video or something into the system, they are expecting that such content will get filtered, right? If in case any abusive language or abusive image or anything got posted, so they wanted to filter out, eliminate those content, and we can have some clean content will be posted into the system. And to do that, Azure Cognitive Services basically help you out in terms of performing that option. So according to that, you will be able to manage such activity, and it will give you a kind of better approach, or maybe you can say kind of better solution in place, and then accordingly you may simplify those options altogether, and then according to that you will be able to manage those activity with the help of this cognitive services in place. So in general, this is like a kind of microservice architecture, so we can have it in place, and it will provide you kind of combinations where you can collaborate multiple components all together, and then you can work with that. So this is like a kind of high level solution maybe we can think through, which basically provide you a kind of option. Now what I did, this solution like broken down into some small pieces, like say for example, if I want to address CI/CD problem statement, then here is the deployment path as well, if in case anybody wants to explore this. So this is like a kind of URL where you will get to know about this one, Kubernetes CI/CD pipeline creations and some particular official blog provided by Microsoft. So there is some implementation tools like they have laid out and how they have created and all some steps are given, right? So if you want to achieve this particular state, if you are working with Azure DevOps, how you can do it, and the steps and explanations are given under this architecture or reference document as well. So that is something probably you guys can use it. Okay. So I'll share that, and probably if you want to refer to it later stage, you will be able to do so. Okay. So that is something probably we can then preferred objection handling. So here we can recommend AKS, Azure Container Instance, and we have web app for containers. These are some of the options are available. And if we need to provide any particular sort of recommendation or any like a kind of guideline, then you will be able to provide these particular options as a part of it. That okay, yeah, I mean, if you wanted to play around with anything or you wanted to provide any such recommendation to the customer point of view and all of that, then I think better approach over here is that to go ahead with AKS, ACI, and web app for containers. So Azure Kubernetes Service, basically it's an ideal solution where it will be a kind of fully managed platform service or platform experience available or provided to the customers. And that way, at least you will be able to plan and manage and take care of that specific activity or specific approach the way it is expected. So we can plan, we can manage that options, and then accordingly, you will be able to go ahead with those solution approach in terms of cloud perspective, and then you will be able to manage that orchestration layer effectively, right? So AKS basically best suitable component. Then along with that, uh, is there any option in Azure that provides container orchestration platform? So that is something we talked about AKS. We heard that Azure Cosmos DB is compatible with MongoDB. Will this provide migration that minimizes the code change? So Azure Cosmos DB basically support multiple NoSQL data model, right? So MongoDB is one of them. So this provide compatibility for code written for MongoDB to communicate with Cosmos DB without code change for easier migration and interoperability point of view. So you don't have to do any or perform any code change in that place, and it will help you out to take care of that activity. Other preferred objection handling is that, so we know Microsoft offer cognitive services with pre-built AI models. What model offer the feature we are looking to use for enhancing our conference website? So AI related Azure Cognitive Services, which basically we can use content moderator API and translator API. And these API can be used to integrate an AI service for real-time text translations and all that. And it can also translate text in real time across more than 70 languages also. So these are some of the consideration we can have it in place, and then accordingly it will provide you kind of valid approach to go ahead with those activity, or maybe you can say if you want to follow along with that, then I think this is something maybe you will be able to target in that scenario, right? So that way at least you will be able to go through with those options or activity the way it is expected. So this is something basically this is something like basically a kind of option where you may simplify. So you may simplify that how those activity, or maybe you will be able to plug and play and manage that particular scope, and according to that, it will give you a kind of activity, or it will give you a kind of approach where you will be able to plan and maintain your services. So that's the other thing. And here what I have tried adding reference link about each and every single service and topic. So in case anybody wants to explore about this particular learning module and all of that, probably you can refer to this, and it will help you out in terms of further learning as well. Yeah. So that's basically the high level understanding about the discussion on this microservice criteria.
So today we explored how microservices architecture can revolutionize your approach to scalable and resilient applications. We walked through the process of setting Azure Kubernetes Service, and handling key challenges such as task orchestration, containerization, etc. So don't forget, if you want to take your skills further, book a free career guidance call with us. Sign up now using the link in the description below. And if you really like this video, make sure that you share this video with your fellow mates, and also make sure that you watch this video right over here.